Dr. Cameron walks into his Montreal hospital office on a crisp morning in 1957. To his patients and colleagues, he's a respected psychiatrist running innovative treatments. What they don't know is that Cameron has just received a suitcase full of cash from a front company called the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology. The real source of this funding? The Central Intelligence Agency. And Cameron is about to begin experiments that will shatter the minds of dozens of innocent people. This isn't some conspiracy theory cooked up in someone's basement. This is documented history, proven by thousands of declassified documents that the CIA tried desperately to destroy. For over 2 decades, the most powerful intelligence agency in the world conducted illegal experiments on American citizens without their knowledge or consent. They dosed people with LSD, subjected them to sensory deprivation, and attempted to completely erase human personalities. The program was called MK Ultra, and today we're diving deep into the declassified files that reveal exactly what happened behind closed doors. What makes this story so disturbing isn't just what they did, but how systematic and widespread it became. We're talking about 149 different projects conducted across 80 institutions, including hospitals, universities, and prisons. The CIA spent over $25 million in today's money pursuing one terrifying goal: complete mind control. The story begins in the early 1950s, when CIA Director Allen Dulles became obsessed with reports that Soviet and Chinese interrogators were using mysterious techniques to break American prisoners during the Korean War. American POWs were returning home spouting communist propaganda, apparently brainwashed by enemy agents. Dulles was convinced the Soviets had discovered some revolutionary method of psychological manipulation, and he was determined that America wouldn't fall behind in this new battlefield of the mind. In April 1953, Dulles authorized a top-secret program initially called MK Ultra. The MK stood for mind control in German, a nod to the Nazi scientists whose research would heavily influence the program. The Ultra designation came from the classified intelligence operation that had cracked German codes during World War II. From the very beginning, this wasn't some rogue operation conducted by a few mad scientists. This was official CIA policy, approved at the highest levels and funded with millions of taxpayer dollars. The man chosen to lead this program was Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, a brilliant chemist with a severe stutter and a clubfoot. Gottlieb believed that the human mind was simply another system that could be hacked, reprogrammed, and controlled if you applied the right techniques. He assembled a network of researchers across the country, many of whom had no idea they were working for the CIA. Universities received grants for psychological research. Hospitals got funding for experimental treatments. Prison wardens were paid to allow testing on inmates. But Gottlieb needed test subjects, and that's where things get truly sinister. Rather than recruit volunteers who understood the risks, the CIA decided to experiment on people who couldn't fight back or expose the program. Psychiatric patients became prime targets because their stories would be dismissed as delusions. Prison inmates were perfect because they had no choice but to participate. Even hospital patients receiving routine treatment found themselves unwitting subjects in mind control experiments. The scope of what happened next defies belief. In Canadian hospitals, patients seeking help for minor depression were subjected to weeks of drug-induced comas combined with endless audio loops designed to break down their personalities. In American prisons, inmates were given massive doses of LSD for months at a time while researchers observed their psychological deterioration. At Lexington Narcotics Hospital in Kentucky, Dr. Harris Isbell ran what can only be described as a torture chamber disguised as medical research. Isbell had access to a steady stream of African American drug addicts who came seeking treatment for their addictions. Instead of help, they received something far worse. For 77 consecutive days, one patient was given LSD every single morning. Another endured 174 days of continuous psychedelic dosing. These men had no idea what was happening to them. They thought they were receiving medical care, but they were actually human guinea pigs in the CIA's quest for mind control. The documents reveal that Isbell kept meticulous records of his subjects' psychological breakdowns. He noted how long it took for their sense of reality to completely shatter. He documented their hallucinations, their terror, their desperate pleas to make the experiments stop. But the funding kept flowing from the CIA, and the experiments continued year after year. Meanwhile, in New York City, Dr. Harold Wolff was conducting his own twisted research at Cornell Medical College. Wolff believed that extreme stress could unlock the secrets of human consciousness. His experiments involved subjecting patients to sensory deprivation, electric shocks, and psychological torture designed to break their will completely. The CIA was particularly interested in his work on interrogation techniques that could force confessions without leaving physical evidence. But perhaps the most horrifying experiments were happening right in the heart of New York's Greenwich Village. Dr. Harold Abramson operated out of a seemingly ordinary apartment building, but behind closed doors he was dosing unsuspecting visitors with LSD and observing their reactions. His subjects included fellow researchers, government employees, and even random acquaintances who had no idea they were being drugged. Abramson would slip the hallucinogen into their drinks and then watch as they descended into hours of psychological terror. The CIA was particularly fascinated by LSD's potential as a truth serum. They believed that the right combination of drugs and psychological pressure could force anyone to reveal their deepest secrets. Declassified memos show that agents fantasized about using these techniques on enemy spies, foreign leaders, and even American citizens suspected of disloyalty. One document describes plans to dose entire water supplies with psychoactive drugs to incapacitate enemy populations. As the program expanded, the experiments became increasingly bizarre and dangerous. In California, researchers explored whether they could implant false memories using hypnosis and drugs. In Montreal, Dr. Cameron continued his psychic driving experiments, attempting to completely erase patients' personalities and rebuild them from scratch. His technique involved putting patients into medically induced comas for weeks while playing recorded messages on endless loops. The goal was to wipe their minds clean and reprogram them like computers. The CIA also funded research into more exotic forms of mind control. They explored whether electromagnetic fields could influence human behavior. They investigated claims about telepathy and psychic phenomena. They even experimented with exotic drugs derived from plants found in remote corners of the Amazon rainforest. No avenue was too strange or too dangerous if it might lead to the ultimate prize of complete psychological control. Throughout all of this, the people running MKUltra maintained elaborate cover stories and compartmentalized operations to hide their activities. University professors thought they were conducting legitimate research into mental illness. Hospital administrators believed they were pioneering new treatments for psychiatric conditions. Even many CIA employees had no idea about the true scope of what their agency was doing to American citizens. The truth about MKUltra only came to light through a series of accidents and investigations that the CIA never saw coming. In 1974, investigative journalist Seymour Hersh published explosive reports about illegal CIA activities on American soil. This triggered congressional investigations, most notably the Church Committee hearings of 1975, which dragged these horrific experiments into the public eye for the first time. But here's what makes this story even more chilling. We only know a fraction of what really happened. In 1973, as congressional scrutiny was mounting, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all MK-Ultra records. Thousands of documents were shredded, burned, and permanently erased from history. The files that survived only did so because of bureaucratic mistakes and misfiled paperwork. The declassified documents we've examined today represent just the tip of an enormous iceberg. For every experiment we know about, there were likely dozens more that remain buried forever. The victims of these programs never received proper compensation or even acknowledgement of what was done to them. Many died without ever understanding why their lives had been destroyed by their own government. What MK-Ultra reveals isn't just a dark chapter in American history, but a warning about what happens when power operates without accountability. The same agency that was supposed to protect American citizens from foreign threats became the very thing it claimed to fight against. These weren't just violations of ethics or law, they were crimes against humanity conducted with taxpayer money and government approval. Today, as we grapple with new questions about surveillance, artificial intelligence, and government overreach, the lessons of MK-Ultra remain more relevant than ever. The documents don't lie, the evidence is overwhelming, and the truth is finally declassified.